Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the third episode of Young Impact Leader of India series, brought to you by Nusocia, and I'm Manju Menon, co-founder and CEO of Nusocia, welcoming you. While the participants are joining in, let me take a moment to talk about Nusocia. Nusocia is an impact advisory and a strategic CSR design company driven with a passion and a dream of enabling a responsible society. This Young Impact Leader series is an initiative of Nusocia to bring to you experiences of young and inspirational leaders who have made some very bold moves and created large scale impact in their career. This session will have two parts: a discussion between the panelists, followed by a question and answer series from the audience. I request all of you not to wait till the end, and please feel to send in your questions into the Q&A box so that we can try and take as many as possible towards the end. Today we have with us the guest speaker, Ms. Richa Pant. Richa is currently the head Group CSR and Sustainability at L&T Finance. She is a leading industry voice on sustainability and shared value proposition, and with over 16 years of experience in CSR functions across companies like Tata Communications, Glenmark, Dr. Reddy's before joining L&T Finance. She is a master's in social work from University of Delhi. She has undertaken the SIMP program from Stockholm in CSR, as well as done her executive management program from IIM Lucknow. She is joined today by Sanjeev Tare, my senior colleague from Nusocia, who himself comes with over 35 years of experience in the area of CSR and sustainability, and has worked across organizations like Tata Communications, NFL, and Goodera before joining Nusocia and leading strategic programs. I welcome a panelist and I invite Sanjeev to take the discussion from here.
Thank you, Manju, and a very warm welcome to all the friends who have joined today in this webinar, and a very warm welcome to Richa, with whom I have had the opportunity to work with in Tata Communications in the CSR space. Richa, really, it has been really wonderful to have you here today in this webinar, and as we would like to listen from you that you have spent almost 16 years of your professional career in CSR and sustainability, uh, and also before that you did a very prestigious academic achievement in this field. So we would like to understand how you ventured on this path. What motivated you to make this a career choice?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Sanjeev and New Social Academy, Manju, for inviting me to share a bit about my experience and how I delve into this particular thematic area. So, Sanjeev, as I come from a family of academicians, and my parents have been, when they were studying in JNU and when they became professors, they've always believed in actually giving back even to students who come from a less resource family, and I've seen that happening in my family quite often. In fact, the fact that one needs to kind of look at volunteering as an opportunity at individual level was something which was inculcated right from the beginning. And similarly, school, which is the next agent of socialization, school also had similar values of giving back. I remember we used to have Friday collections. I studied in Sadar Patel Vidyalay, the estate New Delhi, just to share that bit about you. The values were to give back again. Friday collections, each student was told to get a rupee and kind of which was used for remedial classes of children coming from less privileged sections, and the remedial classes would happen over the weekend. So right from the childhood, these values were given. The second thing which I want to kind of share about is, which I saw at my family as well as school, was the right to question the system, question the policies, question certain decisions. I think that's somewhere these two values are something which remained with me when I took on, whether it is my education at school or college or even my master's. And obviously MSW encouraged that through field work also. So that's where, I took up these two and decided to kind of look at, venturing into this particular domain. And MSW is something which I felt as is a breakthrough, in terms of the field experience. you can obviously do a theoretical discipline after your sociology honors, which I did, but it doesn't really convince you of the realities which are existing in the community level. For that, you need to look at field experience, and that's again which I would like to emphasize on that. So, and when I was doing my master's way back, in 2004, I passed out. At that point of time, CSR was just, it was just a term. People did not know about it as such. There was no law. And for 10 years, if you see, mostly CSR was about businesses giving back, mostly from a sentiment point of view, largely philanthropic initiatives, but again in and around their plants and sites. So CSR was just evolving. I remember one of my teacher was stating that this is going to be an area which is going to be upcoming in future, because that's a deliberation which was going on at that point of time with the government, and she did mention to us as students that one should look at these as an opportunity, but however, if you're looking at that opportunity, one should look at how it needs to be connected to business, and that's something which stayed on with me. And post my MSW, I was fortunate enough to get a placement where it was a CSR project of a Gap apparel company. However, I was placed with Navjyoti Delhi Police Foundation in a Tihar jail welfare home. So multi-sectoral partnership initiatives, which was monitored by Partners in Change, which was just a concern of Action Aid at that point of time. So, this entire background of both my school, family, the faculty that told me that, this is going to be one upcoming area, was enough to kind of propel me towards CSR. However, it happened gradually from development sector to corporate, and therefore the sustainability piece.
Very good.
Just to add on a bit on sustainability, Sanjeev, that happened to me when I first entered Sonakoyo Steerings, because at that point of time, before that, when I was with not-for-profit sector, it was largely CSR implementing programs that I was associated with. Sustainability happened when I got to know that it is the customers, when they demand that you need to be doing certain aspects of ESG, for example, zero waste policy, which was important at that point of time in 2008 in Sonakoyo Steerings, being a Deming award-winning company. I saw that this is imperative than the company to undertake. So I realized that this is something again that companies will be undertaking for this initiative sustainability forward, and because customers, gradually even investors at Glenmark, we saw investors asking it. We saw in fact in Datacom some of the investors asking it. Here also at L&T Finance, investors asking it. So a lot of stakeholders have started asking this. That what is the company doing on sustainability if you want to really stay alive in your business? So I think that is something again which kind of motivated me that these are two upcoming fields that one needs to stay invested, and one needs to keep on doing upskilling on these initiatives. And as you know, Manju also mentioned to in the introduction, I took on 2-3 courses around it. Being from development sector, felt it was very critical that if I have to work in corporate sector, I need to understand management principles. So I took this course at IIM Lucknow in order to stay relevant in the corporate sector. And when I talk to business team, I talk sense. I'm not just talking about just passion. Passion is one thing, of course, that you need to happen, but you need to understand business as well.
So that's a very good alignment, Richa, which you brought into this. And this will be, I'm sure, very useful to our young friends who are aspiring their careers in this field. So, Richa, I agree with you that how the business and the CSR, they align with each other, and taking that cue on that, I mean, taking it forward, it's very interesting to note that your organization, L&T Finance, recently won the Business Standard Socially Aware Company Corporate of the Year award. So, to build this socially aware organization, what is that which you and your team have done differently? This will be very interesting to understand.
Sure, Sanjeev. Thank you for that. I mean, so like I was mentioning, it is important to understand business. I was just talking about that, and that is something which we did. We come from a development sector background, and if you want to really develop CSR programs, we cannot talk to business from an angle that यहाँ पे poverty है तो हमें करना चाहिए करके वो ठीक है, but क्या business को is it making sense for them to do it? So at that point of time, the demonetization had happened, and we interacted a lot with our microfinance team. We saw their struggles. Fortunately for us, there was a lot of, our business understands rural markets well. We went to rural markets, understood the plight of the villagers also, directly by us also, and through our implementing partners. And at that point of time, we developed this model of Digital Sakhi. So Digital Sakhi is a model that has been created by L&T Financial Services. That's the differentiator, major. It is not that it's a not-for-profit which is created and we are funding it. We have created it by taking inputs from business team, primarily microloans team, blended our expertise, which is being the financial institution, we have developed financial literacy module and took a feedback from NGO partners on community, on things like entitlement schemes that need to be part of this particular model also. So it's a holistic model that combines inputs from various internal and external stakeholders, with community being central to it. Again, seeing very clearly that, are largely in the microfinance institution, it's a joint liability group, 100% women customers. So if you want to look at the ecosystem to develop, it has to be a rural women who can convince community to use digital modes of payment, and that's where the peer-to-peer learning program started. So I would say this has been a major differentiator, taking in inputs a lot from business teams, co-creating project with them and with the external stakeholders like the NGOs, and also continuously taking feedback from the community. You see, that is one thing which is very critical.
That's a wonderful example of Richa. I mean, building the rural livelihoods with digital and financial inclusion. Thanks for sharing that experience. And as also I remember when we also worked together in the space of CSR, and we did a lot of programs together. And you had apart from the organization we worked together, also you worked in various organizations and worked on national level projects. So we would like to understand that what kind of challenges you see, in building sustainable programs at a cross country level.
A couple of challenges which I want to share, because we work strongly with the implementing partners. I think capacity building of NGOs is very critical, and I strongly feel that companies must invest, and it is for their own good. I think as close to 48 or 47,000 crores has gone into, as a CSR funding has gone into not-for-profit organizations, and it is important for corporates to also see how it is getting utilized with critical indicators aligned to its core purpose. So for that, it is important that NGOs also understand the way corporates look at it, outcome indicators, measurable indicators. So at L&D Finance, we've been organizing regularly an annual workshop for our partner organizations. It's called Convergence, where we ensure that they understand why is it that we require a measurable indicator, why is it important to have baseline surveys, inline surveys, continuously monitor it. We are also responsible for to answer to our shareholders about what is happening to their money. So we try to kind of explain to our NGO partners our perspective, and we try to explain to our management the NGO development perspective. Management also needs to understand that you cannot do 1 year or a 6 months program. You need to stay invested for 3 years. So that's one challenge that one has to do continuously as a CSR professional. When you enter the corporate side, it is important that you start sensitizing your management, your peers, your businesses, that what development sector is all about. Minimum 3 years of investment into an area so that you can see a particular social impact happening. Whether it is Digital Sakhi, Jal Vaibhav, or any of our program, we stay minimum invested for 3 years at least to look at impact. And obviously now we're looking at a 5 years term for all our Digital Sakhi programs. So I think one of the challenges is obviously in terms of capacity building of NGO partners. The other challenges, of course, for CSR professionals is also inside challenges with the management explaining them. But given that if you have a shared value project, that becomes it's not so much of a challenge, rather it presents as a solution piece.
So,
Richa, yeah,
sorry to interrupt. So shared values. This is really something very interesting because there are a lot of people in our audience as well as otherwise as well in the spheres of CSR. Uh, Shared value is something which is always something to aspire for, and as we understand, you are a strong proponent of shared value in business. So with this current situation of the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 post-pandemic, how do you see that the how easy or difficult it will be to the businesses to consider shared value, given their focus would be mostly on the recovering from the immediate losses and other side effects of that.
I think it's more important than ever to have a shared value project in this particular scenario. Again, I would reiterate it: as long as you're able to have a business aligned, business adjacent CSR program, the resources will not be cut when the pandemic is on. If you have let's say a corporate has a foundation or a trust which is large enough, you can raise funds. It's fine. You can do any thematic area. But if it, let's say, a financial services, if we do a healthcare in a charitable purpose, the first thing in such a scenario is that your resources get cut. But if you're doing something which is aligned to your business, where you have used your expertise, it will not get, so your resources will stay on. Similarly, for a pharmaceutical, it makes sense to have healthcare programs. So I think it's more important when you have a a program, let's say running from a CSR cost center. You need to have programs which are of shared value in nature, because it's
Yes.
a business win-win, it's a community win-win, and you stay invested even when there are difficult circumstances. If you have obviously mostly a philanthropic or a charity approach within the and you don't have a foundation yet, I would then say that then obviously there will be challenges in terms of implementing. But of course, there are organizations that have taken call that despite of adversities, even though if they have philanthropic approach, if the promoter is very keen, the programs still go on. So it all depends upon the philosophy of the promoter or the professional organization, whichever it is. But shared value programs definitely stay on, because, as you know, without that, the business will not go on. It is connected to the strategy of the business. So that way it makes sense then.
Yes, it's a very long term thing. I mean,
Yes.
as I understand what you just mentioned, that the businesses are not just looking at a short term thing, but shared value is important from the long term sustainability of the all stakeholders. That's a very good understanding you are given. So, Richa, with the kind of experience and with the kind of uh, academic background and the kind of outreach you have achieved in this sphere of CSR and sustainability, uh, we would like to listen from you that, especially to our young aspirants, young professionals who are either working in this field, just beginning their careers, or those who are uh, going through certain academic programs, maybe in CSR, sustainability, or management, but to develop more deeper understanding that how it can help them in their careers. What advice you would like to give them, that's out to someone who is starting his or her career in the social sector?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjeev, for that question. It's very important. I feel that both, whether it is CSR professionals or development sector professionals, uh, field work is the most critical piece, which I would like to state. Whether it is to understand what development sector is all about, community issues, going there, staying with the community, and understanding their challenges, or to understand your own business. Just to give you an example, when I was transitioning between my previous assignment and this assignment, during that time it's a bliss, that time you can do whatever you want to. But I took a call that I want to understand what my business is all about. So I took permission from my future organization that I would like to see how a joint liability group operates. So I went there and I saw, this is how it looks like, this is how customers are there, these women are there, who's the collection agent, is that a male member, do they respond to that person or not. That really helped me in putting some inputs into digital Saki program. I also visited Mandeshi Foundation, which is a well-known organization. I met Ms.
Yes.
Chetna Gala Sinha, tried to understand how her model works. So, it is important that you stay invested, go to field, understand your business well, connect, develop programs that are aligned to your business, because that all adds into it. Second thing I would like to state it, once your model is developed, and that model, for developing that model, nothing which is critical, and I've been stating is keep interacting with external and internal stakeholders on a regular basis, including your community, because with in digital Saki program also, we've been continuously taking feedback from community. Entitlement scheme which has been added is basically because community told us at all levels, whether MP, Odisha, that you need to have this in the program. Otherwise, digital financial literacy does not just work alone. So taking feedback from community on a regular basis. And third thing is, when your model is developed, start talking about, communicate as much as possible. Communicate internally, communicate externally. It is very important to do especially internal communication if you want to keep on the buying of the management in. So once the model was developed, it started showing success in parameters. We started communicating aggressively within the within our organization. So I think these are three things: fieldwork, identifying stakeholders, mapping them, prioritizing them, and continuously interacting with them. Thirdly, communicating to stakeholders at all levels about your program initiatives. I think these three are very critical for development sector professional and for CSR professional as we venture into this particular space, social impact space.
Yeah, Riksha, that's a wonderful and so, I mean, so deep insight of how someone really needs to, garner these kind of skills and these competencies in terms of understanding the stakeholders, understanding the communities, and how effectively one can communicate with the various stakeholders. That is a very important message for those who would really like to make their careers in this sector. So, Richa, really, thank you very much for this enlightening conversation. And now, I'm being told by my colleagues that there are a lot of questions from the audience which are
Okay.
flowing in. And so now I will hand over to Manju to share to take the audience queries and take it forward.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Richa, it is a very super enriching session which is going on, and I'm kind of glued into it now. While we have almost like 7-8 minutes more, there are some very interesting questions from the audience that I would like to take up, and maybe because we also have Sanjeev who's experienced from the sector, I'll probably ask a response from both of you for these questions, because then I think there are more perspectives getting added to it.
Sure.
So the first question is, with companies, uh, you know, kind of looking at revenue losses, right, because of COVID pandemic, how do you think they're going to repurpose their entire CSR initiatives in a post-COVID scenario? And do you see them expecting? Do you see them, cutting their CSR budgets in the short term? And how is that, vis-a-vis, in a long term, how is it going to change for them?
See, Manju, like I mentioned in the question that Sanjeev also asked, if it is aligned to business, I don't see immediate cut on that aspects. Yes, there will be focus on COVID because it's going to stay there for some time, and government is also focusing on lot. So corporates will invest a lot on COVID-related initiatives. So there will be some prioritization change which will happen. So COVID will be there, I believe, and then existing projects also. Again, if it is connected to business, they will stay on. Of course, with limited resources, they will do it. I saw one question around inclusive business model that somebody was asking. I think that's something which is very interesting if companies can develop those around it. And CSR professions, if they have both development sector expertise and management expertise, if they are able to cull out a model like that, I think then it's no more a CSR. It actually is a business. And actually, microfinance is one of the inclusive business model which is running now well across various NBFCs and microfinance institutions which are running it. I think we are able to develop those. In fact, I think Novartis also has an Arogya Parivar program, which is something similar. If you have these models, then you don't see a resource constraint happening at all. Because again, like I'm mentioning again and again, that business will see value in it. You need to understand what is the business value chain that you need to work upon. So if it is a healthcare pharmaceutical, what is the core end? What does the consumer want? I remember developing a program in Glenmark, which was on child healthcare. Why did we choose malnutrition and immunization as two key areas? Because somewhere our R&D was also working on reducing malnutrition, developing medicine for it. So it was like a R&D research firm which is going on. And as CSR, we were able to give them community inputs on it. So I think as long as, like I mentioned, if it is connected to business, aligned using expertise, resources will not be constrained. But COVID, will be a priority to businesses because it's the need of the hour. So that will be there.
Yeah, Sanjeev, would you like to add something to it?
Yeah, I think Risha has covered very well. One more thing I would like to add here is that post-COVID scenario, looking at the CSR strategy, also it will be very important that companies undertake a thorough review of their stakeholders' impact first to arrive at any, and I'm sure companies will take their own time to evolve in terms of their post-COVID response, and some of the ongoing programs which are also equally critical. Like suppose some organizations are already investing in immunization and other healthcare related last mile access related projects in the communities. There might be some impact of the COVID situation on those kind of initiatives which are already ongoing. So it will be very important to first ensure that those things do not get affected and then move forward step by step. So it will take some more time for them to evolve the complete scenario.
That's great. Adding to this question, because when I was listening to these responses, one sudden query that came into my mind is, how well do you prepare your stakeholders to
Yes.
to come up with strategic initiatives like this? And do the stakeholders, for example, the nonprofits, are they really geared in co-creating, shared value projects with CSR? Do you think a capacity building initiative is really required to bridge this gap of understanding between business needs and the capabilities of a non-profit. So what is your response on that, Richa?
So, Manju, when we kind of, and this is for people who want to enter into CSR domain, you need to do your homework really well. So I believe, like I mentioned, start interacting with management as much as possible. You can take as, when you enter the system, just take an appointment with a business head and then look at kind of developing the program. So like I again mentioned, I don't see a challenge at all if the business is convinced about that whatever you are developing is adding value to it. Of course, there are challenges in terms of, typically CSR has had that kind of background with it should work in silo, 3-4 member की टीम है अपना कर रहे हैं कुछ अच्छा काम, लेकिन वो अच्छा काम आपके बिजनेस से कनेक्टेड और आपको उसमें वैल्यू मिल रही है. So that you have to show that to that business person. Take some time out, show him that how you understand his business, what is the development sector needs, how if you work on that particular intervention will give a business benefit also and from a long term perspective, as well as address the core need of the community. If you are able to show this from a long term perspective, definitely, because it doesn't happen within a year or so. If you give him that perspective, they will understand. It takes time, mindsets don't feel, it takes time. You have to try, keep on trying. It is there. If you just give up hope, ek ne nahi mana, dusre nahi mana, chhod diya, it will not happen. You have to keep on trying. So it's important, we do our homework well before joining institution. When we are in the institution, keep on doing that. Keep on interacting with different business team. Understand, go to field. These are some critical things which will help us stay connected and will continue to have mindset of the management.
That's great, Richa. I have one another question which has come from from the audience. So, how can organizations, in your opinion, implement their CSR initiatives using a triple bottom line approach?
So, you already have, when you're looking at sustainability, which is all about triple bottom line approach. What are you doing? I mean, what is the shared value all about? You're looking at economic returns to happen overall from a business perspective. Somewhere, let's say I pick up Digital Saki program. Now, Digital Saki program at the end of, if you see our value chain is a women entrepreneur. Now, the program also looks at how we can increase her credit taking ability, upskilling her. So, you're looking at, ecosystem development, upskilling her, technically training her in various agri-allied trades. You're looking at ADP program. She gets trained. At the parallelly, also you're training her on digital modes of payment. So when the recovery has to happen in terms of collection, can we use digital modes of payment and recovery can happen. So your business is getting, so you're looking at a profitability aspect there, looking at a people aspect there. Employees should be connected because you're taking inputs from microfinance team, you're taking inputs from your learning and development team. You also look at, your feet on street, going and interacting along with digital Saki there. When your digital Saki is taking the session with the community, a feet and street can be there, and understand the process, what is happening. So your people aspect gets covered there. And from an environmental angle, so I would say again, this is all about ecosystem development. It is. I'm not saying from a environment per se angle, but if you see digital Saki program, ecosystem gets developed. So your people, planet, and profit aspects get covered from a sustainability angle in this particular. I'll give you an example of a digital Saki program. So I think that's something which we have been seeing it. In another element you had asked, Manju, if you can just the second leg of the question. You're on silent, I think, Manju.
Sorry, I was asking that how do you design initiatives, especially in a in a scenario like this, from a triple bottom line perspective. So I think you fairly answered well in the terms of the profit and the people perspective of it.
And the purpose also. So I want to add the four P's, the fourth P being the purpose. So there is a purpose behind it also, that why we are doing it. Larger purpose being the overall ecosystem development from a digital financial inclusion perspective. We provide both with digital financial literacy. We are looking at, income generation program. We are looking at actually through our business access to finance. Microfinance business, what do? You give access to finance. So both access and awareness and adoption is something 3 A's that we're looking at. So it covers the entire purpose of the so sustainability piece comes in, and that leads to actually sustainable business model. So that's how it gets built in. Yeah.
So I think it's almost time for concluding this, and thank you, Richa, for pointing out the importance of shared value as a concept to build sustainable CSR. And I think especially in a scenario like what we are living today, COVID, where resources are going to be constrained, I think sustainability is going to be more and more becoming the central talk point in boardroom conversations. And I think there isn't uh, a more ideal time than to speak about building resilient and sustainable CSR programs. And thanks, Sanjeev, for those pertinent questions and making this session so relevant. And I'm confident that the people who have joined us today, the attendees who have joined us today, have gained insights on building resilient and sustainable CSR initiatives through this conversation. Thank you, audience, for joining in large numbers. Thank you, Richa, once again. Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you, Manju.
Thanks, Manju.
Sanjeev.
Thanks, Richa.
Thank you to Nuffic Academy and all the participants who've been here.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Take care.
Good
Bye.
evening.